Welcome back. Let us learn class 10th economics, money and credit. Chapter 3. In this, we are going to discuss part 2. So, previous video we learned about what is money, what is the currency, what is the bank and credit, everything. So, in this video, we are going to learn terms of credit. So here, every loan agreement specifies an interest rate uh, which the borrower must pay to the lender along with the repayment of the principal. So in addition, lenders may demand collateral like a security against loans. Collateral is an asset that the borrower owns, such as land, building, and vehicle, livestock, and deposits with banks, and uses this as a guarantee to a lender until the loan is repaid. Is the if In case if the borrower fails to repay the loan, the lender has the right to sell the asset or collateral to obtain payment. That means he want to clear that one. And property such as land titles, deposits with banks, livestock are some common examples of collateral used for borrowing. So let us learn how they do collateral by knowing the example. So here, terms of credit. Collateral means collateral is an asset that the borrower owns, such as land, building, vehicle, livestock, and deposits with banks. And here, and uses this as a guarantee to the lender until the loan is repaid. Here we need to have four requirements like documentation, tenure, mode of payment, rate of interest. So we have an example for the collateral, like how they will make this one. A house loan. Here, Mega has taken a loan of rupees 5 lakhs from the bank to purchase a house. So here, the annual interest rate on the loan is 12% and the loan is to be repaid in 10 years in monthly installment. That means she need to pay monthly installment within 10 years. And Mega had to submit to the bank if she want to do the loan for house, she need to submit a few records. That means document showing her employment records and salary before the bank agreed to give her the loan, and the bank retained as collateral the papers of the new house which will be returned to Mega only when she repays the entire loan with interest. So along with that the principal amount, that is 5 lakhs, along with interest she need to pay for the loan. Here we have details of Mega's house, loans are filled below. Here loan amount in rupees 5 lakh rupees, and duration of loan within 10 years, means she need to repay that month amount within 10 years. And documents required. So what are the documents required for the house loan to submit in the bank? So those are salary slips, employment record. And interest rate in this bank, they are applying 12% per annum. So here mode of repayment, that is monthly installment in cash or by check she can pay. And here collateral is a new house paper. So interest rate and collateral and documentation requirement and the mode of repayment together comprise what is called the terms of credit. So here we are learning terms of credit. So all these included in the interest rate, collateral and documentation requirement and the mode of payment together making as a terms of credit. So we will call that terms of credit. So the terms of credit vary substantially from one credit arrangement to another. They may vary depending on the nature of the lender and the borrower. Here she is making house loan. If somebody makes like a vehicle loan, another things, so it will be differ from one loan to another. The next section will be provide examples of the varying terms of credit in different credit arrangements. So here the bank has guaranteed, we want to know that the bank has guaranteed a housing loan to Megha to help her purchase her house. She has submitted income proof and given the house documents as collateral for the loan. So a collateral is nothing but an asset which a borrower is required to deposit with or pledge to a lender as a condition of obtaining a loan, which can be sold off if the loan is not repaid. So they are taking further their security. So the bank would demand a collateral if you applied for loan. So the bank will keep the property pledged to the bank and the documents will be with the bank. You won't be able to sell off the property until the pledge is released. If you pay off the loan in full, the pledge will be nullified by the bank upon closure of the loan. In case of default, the bank has the authority to sell the pledged property in order to recover the loan amount. So this is the condition of the terms of credit. Let us learn the variety of credit arrangements. Like in how this we learnt about the house loan previous slide, and we are going to the variety of credit arrangements in the village, like how they are making the credit arrangements. Here we have like Rohit and Ranjan had finished reading about the terms of credit in the class. They were eager to know the various of credit arrangements that existed in their area. So who were the people who provided credit and who were the borrowers? What were the terms of credit? And they decided to talk to some people in their village, because this Rohit and Ranjan had some curiosity. Like in urban areas, we will get the like employment everything, and they'll be giving the records like employment salary slips and all. Then they do have some in village people, how they'll people who provided credit for them and who are the borrowers, and what were the terms of credit. So they want to know about it. So they met a few people to know about the credit. Okay, so here we head direct, they are saying, that's two boys, they are saying we head directly for the fields where most farmers and laborers would be working at this time of day. The fields are planted with potato crops. We first meet Shamal, a small farmer in Sonapur, a small irrigated village. So they first met the Shamal to know about the credit arrangements. So here we have a Shamal story. Shamal tells us that every season he needs loans for cultivation on his 1.5 acre of land. Till a few years back, he would borrow money from the village money lender at an interest rate of 5% per month. Like that means 60% per annum. For the last few years, Shamal has been borrowing from an agricultural trader in the village at an interest rate of 3% per month. At the beginning of the cropping season, the trader supplies the farm inputs on credit, which is to be repaid when the crops are ready for harvest. So here Shamal have a 1.5 acre of land. So he want to grow crops in his field. He need to buy seeds, fertilizers and everything. So for that he need to borrow money from the money lender who having in a villages, the money lenders will have. So they'll be giving, who are required money like a poor people, he will be giving money with the 60% per annum interest rate. So that is too high to comparing to the banks. For the last few years, Shamal has been borrowing from agriculture trader in the village. And another thing is, some agricultural traders will be coming into the village and they are giving the money for the poor people who are required. For them also they are taking to interest at a rate of 3%. Besides the interest charge on the loan, the trader also makes the farmers promise to sell the crop to him. This way, the trader can ensure that the money is repaid promptly. Also, since the crop prices are low after the harvest, the trader is able to make a profit from buying the crop at a low price from the farmers and then selling it later when the price has risen. So, this is the uh, cases what we are seeing the rural areas like see if they'll take interest first itself from the traders or money lenders, they need to uh, sell the whatever they are growing crop, they need to sell with the low rate. So here they may lose, they are not able to repay the loans. So this is the case of Shamal, the credit arrangement in the village. So we next met Arun, who is supervising the work of one farm laborer. Arun has 7 acres of land. He is one of the few persons in Sonapur to receive bank loan for cultivation. The interest rate on the loan is 8.5% per annum and can be repaid any time in the next 3 years. Arun plans to repay the loan after harvest by selling a part of the crop. He then intends to store the rest of the potatoes in cold storage and apply for the fresh loan from the bank against the cold storage receipt. So the bank offers this facility to farmers who have taken crop loan from them. So here is one more person. His name is Arun. He is supervising the work of one farm laborer. So he has like 7 acres of land, and he is one of the few persons in Sonapur to receive bank loans for the cultivation with the 8%, 8.5% of the annum interest he need to pay, and along with that he do have a 3 years to repay the loan. Arun plans to repay the loan after harvest by selling the crops, and another thing is he intends to store the rest of the potatoes in cold storage. For that also he need to apply fresh loan. Here he will be benefited to comparing to the Shamal, because Shamal is taking 60% per annum the interest, and here he is applying loan from the bank, that is 8.5% per annum. So we are going to the another story, that is Rama. Rama is also working in the neighboring field. She works as agriculture laborer. There are several months in the year when Rama has no work, and she needs credit to meet the daily expenses, like expenses on sudden illness or functions in the family are also met through loans. Rama has to depend on her employer, a medium labor landowner in Sonpur, for credit. So the landowner charges an interest rate of 5% per month. Rama repays the money by working for the landowner. Most of the time, Rama has to take a fresh loan before the previous loan has been repaid at present. At present, she owns the landowner like rupees 5,000, though the landowner does not treat her well. She continues to work for him since she can get loans from him when in need. Rama tells us that the only source of credit for the landless people in Sonpur are the landowner employers. So, this is the case study of Rama. So she is working in a neighboring field. She works in agriculture laborer, and she need any like any money for her previous expenses and sudden illness or any function family. She need to borrow money from the landowner with the 5% of interest with every month. So she cannot repay the loan amount, and she need to work in his field only. However, how much she is giving that regular pay, so she need to work itself. So coming to the loans from cooperatives. So besides, the other major source of chief credit in rural areas are the cooperative societies or cooperatives. Here, members of a cooperative pool their resources for cooperation in certain areas. There are several types of cooperatives in a possible, such as like a farmer cooperatives, weavers cooperatives, industrial worker cooperatives, etc. And another thing is Krishak cooperative functions in a village not very far away from the Sonpur. It has 2,300 farmers as members. It accepts deposits from its members. With these deposits as a collateral, the cooperative has obtained a large loan from the bank. So these funds are used to provide loans to members. Once these loans are repaid, another round of lending can take place. So here, Krishak Cooperative provides loans for the purchase of agricultural implements, loans for cultivation and agricultural trade and fishery loans, loans for construction of houses and for a variety of other expenses. So like this, the credit arrangements are very different from one work to another. So here, what is credit? We already know that um, credit refers to an agreement in which the lender supplies the borrower with the money, goods or services in return for the promise of future payment. So here we have one, after reading this all case studies, we have one question. So why is there a need for credit in rural areas? See, in rural areas, the main demand for credit is for crop production. So, the crop production involves considerable costs on seeds, like seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides, water, electricity, and repair of equipment, etc. So, there is a minimum stretch of 3 to 4 months between in the time when the farmers buy these inputs and when they sell the crop. Farmers usually take crop loans at the beginning of the season and repay the loan after harvest. Payment of the loan is crucially dependent on the income from the farming. So this is happens in the rural areas. So coming to the formal sector credit in India. For these reasons, banks and cooperative societies need to lend more. We have seen in the above examples that the people obtain loans from the various sources. The various types of loans can be conveniently grouped as formal sector loans and informal sector loans. Among the former are loans from banks and cooperatives. The informal lenders include money lenders, traders, employers, and relatives and friends, etc. In graph 1, you can see the various sources of credit to rural households in India. Is more credit coming from the formal sector or the informal sector? You can see this graph like 30% money lenders like of rural households in India in 2003. So traders like a 3% and relatives and friends 7% and 27% from cooperative societies and 25% in commercial banks and 1% in landlords. The Reserve Bank of India supervises the functioning of formal sources of loans. For instance, we have seen that the banks maintain a minimum cash balance out of the deposits they receive. So the Reserve Bank of India monitors the banks in actually maintaining cash balance. Similarly, the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, sees that the banks give loans but just to do profit making businesses and traders, but also to small cultivators, small scale industries, to small borrowers, etc. So periodically, banks have to submit information to the Reserve Bank of India on how much they are lending, to whom they are lending, and what interest rate, etc. So there is no organization with which supervises the credit activities of lenders in the informal sector. So they can lend at whatever interest rate they have. So you can choose, there is no one to stop them from using unfair means to get their money back. So for these reasons, banks and cooperative societies need to lend more. So compared to the formal lenders, most of the informal lenders charge a much higher interest on loans. Thus, the cost to the borrower of informal loans is much higher. Higher cost of borrowing means a larger part of the earnings of the borrowers is used to repay the loan. So, hence, borrowers have less income left for themselves, as we saw for Shamal in Sonapur. In certain cases, the high interest rate for the borrowing can make that the amount to be repaid is greater than the income of the borrower. So, here this could lead to the increasing debt, as we saw from the Rama in Sonapur. So she is not able to pay her loan. And debt trap also. Also, people who might wish to start an enterprise by borrowing may not do so because of the high cost of borrowing. For these reasons, banks and cooperative societies need to lend more. This would lead to higher incomes, and many people could then borrow cheaply for the variety of needs. They could grow crops and they do businesses and set up small scale industries, etc. So they could set up new industries or trade in goods. Cheap and affordable credit is crucial for the country's development. So, coming to the formal and the informal credit, who gets what? So, here we have formal sources of credit and informal sources of credit. So, the Reserve Bank of India supervises the functioning of the formal sources of loan, and they provide loans at the fixed rates and terms. They give loans not just to profit making businesses and traders, but also to small cultivators and small scale industries, to small borrowers, etc. And even banks and cooperatives comes under the category of formal sources of credit. And coming to the informal sources, there is no organization which supervises the credit activities of lenders in the informal sector. And rates of interest are not fixed, and money lenders can charge whatever interest rate they choose. They give loans to small cultivators only to earn profit. When we see the Rama and Shamal cases in the previous video, and this is no one to stop them from using unfair means to get their money back. In the informal lenders includes money lenders, traders, employers, relatives, and friends. And here graph 2 shows the importance of formal and informal sources of the credit for people in urban areas. So here the people are divided into four groups from poor to rich. As shown in the figure, you can see that 85% of the loans taken by poor households in the urban areas are from informal sources. Here you can see poor households, and compare this with the rich urban households. What do you find? Only 10% of their loans are from informal sources. You can see here rich households in the last figure, and from the while 90% are from formal sources. A similar pattern is also found in rural areas. So here, the rich households are availing cheap credit from formal lenders, whereas the poor households have to pay a large amount for borrowing. So what does all this suggest? First, this all suggests is that first, the formal sector still meets only about half of the total credit needs of the rural people. So the remaining credit needs are met from informal sources. You can see this blue percent of the loans from the informal sector, and purple represents the percent of loans from the formal sectors. So here most loans from informal lenders carry a very high interest rate and do little to increase the income of the borrowers. So here it is necessary that banks and cooperatives increase their lending, particularly in rural areas, so that the dependence on informal sources of credit reduces. Secondly, while formal sector loans need to expand, it is also necessary that everyone receives these loans. At present, it is the richer households who receive formal credit, whereas the poor have to depend on the informal sources. It is important that the formal credit is distributed more equally so that the poor can benefit from the cheaper loans. So, coming to the self help groups for the poor. So, we need to, in the previous section, we have seen that poor households are still dependent on informal sources of credit. Why is it so? So, here banks are not present everywhere in rural India. Even when they are present, getting a loan from a bank is much more difficult than taking a loan from informal sources. As we saw, mm, for Mega Bank in the previous video, bank loans require proper documents and collateral. So, in absence of the collateral is one of the major reasons which prevents the poor from getting bank loans. Maybe, informal lenders such as money lenders on the other hand, now the borrowers personally and hence are often willing to give a loan without collateral. So here the borrowers can, if necessary, approach the money lenders even without repaying their earlier loans. However, the money lenders charge very high rates of interest, keep no records of the transactions, and harass the poor borrowers. So here you can see this picture, a worker stitching a gilt. Do you think a bank will give me a loan? No, because he need a proper documentation. So that time he need to depend on the money lenders or any informal sector. In recent years, people have tried out some newer ways of providing loans to the poor. So the idea is to organize rural poor, in particular like a woman, into small self-help groups. That means SHGs, and pool like a collect their savings. A typical SHG has like a 15 to 20, like it helps to pooling the savings of the members who are poor women. Members can get timely loans for the variety of purposes and at reasonable rate of the interest. It helps borrowers to overcome the problem of lack of collateral. It also provides a platform to discuss variety of social issues of their concern. So here we can see such the small group of rural poor and who have voluntarily come forward to form a group for improvement of the social and economic status of the members. In this groups, like a homogeneous group of like about 50 to 20 members will be there. Usually in a typical SH like a self-help groups can have 50 to 20 members, usually belonging to the same village. The main motive of this SHG is to pool the savings of the poor people. Saving per member can vary from rupees like 100 to 200 or more, depending on the ability of the people and the strength of the group. So the self-help groups provide loans to their members at the reasonable rate. After a year or two, if the group is regular in savings, it becomes eligible for bank loans. Loan is sanctioned in the name of the group with the main motive to create self-employment opportunities for the members. In the recent years, many commercial and cooperative banks have provided loans to the self-help groups for releasing mortgaged land, for meeting working capital needs, for housing materials, for acquiring assets like sewing machines, handlooms, cattle, etc. So here we have to understand that the most important feature of self-help groups is most of these groups are being organized by women. These are helping women to become financially self-reliant. The regular meetings of the groups provide a platform to discuss and act on variety of social issues such as dowry and domestic violence and child marriage, etc. So here we have like a conditions required for the membership of SHC. Like a member should be between the age group of 20 to 60 years. From one family, only one person can become a member of this small scale self-help groups. Members should be homogeneous. It should be have a same social financial background. So what are the advantages of self-help groups? It helps borrowers, we discussed about this, to overcome the problems of lack of collateral. People can get timely loans for the variety of purposes and at the reasonable interest rate. So it helps women to be financially self-reliant. So what is the role of SHGs? So women are taken to target group instead of individual. There is a group approach for achieving targets. Savings are seen as a precondition for credit eligibility for loan, and the procedure is simple. So in 1991 and 92, National Bank of for Agriculture and Rural Development started promoting SHGs. There are more than 30 lakh SHGs in India today. So coming to the Grameen Bank of Bangladesh. So Grameen Bank of Bangladesh is one of the biggest success stories in reaching the poor to meet their credit needs. So here we have one example of it success story in the Grameen Bank of Bangladesh. So what happened here? They started in 1970 as a small project like a Grameen Bank. Now has over 6 million borrowers in about 40,000 villages spread across Bangladesh. Almost all of the borrowers are women and belong to poorest sections of the society. So these borrowers have proved that not only are poor women reliable borrowers, but that they can start and run a variety of small income generating activities successfully. So here we want to observe like if credit can made available to the poor people on terms and conditions that are appropriate and reasonable, these millions of small people with their millions of small pursuit can add up the credit the biggest development wonder. So here this word is said by Professor Muhammad Yunus, the founder of Grameen Bank, how it will came to the success. So he explained the his words like and recipients of the 2006 Nobel Prize of Peace. So like this one of the success story in the banks. So coming to the in this chapter coming to the end in this chapter, we have looked at the modern forms of money and how they are linked with the banking system on one side, and one side we are the depositors who keep their money in the banks, and on the other side are the borrower who take loans from these banks, like economic activities require loans or credit. So here we want to notice that credit, as we saw, can have a positive impact or in certain situations make the borrowers worse off. So depend upon their like ability. Credit is available from the variety of sources. So these can be either formal sources or informal sources. So in this, we do have terms of credit vary substantially, like between formal and informal lenders. At present, it is the richer households who receive credit from formal sources, whereas the poor have to depend on the informal sources. So it is essential that the total formal sector credit increases so that the dependence on the more expensive informal credit becomes less. And also, the poor should get a much greater share of formal loans from banks and cooperative societies, etc. So, both these steps are important for the development. So, I hope you understand this lesson. With this, I am going to end my lesson. I will meet in the next video. Thank you for watching.